What could you not forgive your girlfriend for?
Story 1. Dated a woman for 6 months. She constantly accused me of cheating. So one night I just said, you know what, I think you're cheating. She threw her drink in my face. The level of disrespect and obvious lack of coping skills just ended it for me. Story 2. Lying about being pregnant, twice, using children from previous relationships as ammunition and guilt trips, saying that I was being selfish when I was depressed over the loss of a family member, telling coworkers I've got a drug problem. Not true, glad to be single now. Story 3. I had to cancel a date because my dad was in a lot of pain due to being terminally ill, and I wanted to be there for him. She got mad at me because you're always with your dad and never with me. He died that night. After I told her he died, she ignored me for a whole week afterwards. She told me she was sorry and that she had regrets. I've never accepted her apology and am still pissed off at her. It was 4 years ago. Story 4. I once had a girlfriend I walked in on using the bathroom. She was sitting backwards. I left her the next week. It still bothers me to think about 15 years later. Story 5. Cheating. The obvious answer I know, but my view has and always will be you cheat. I leave girlfriend of 4 years cheated on me when she went out drinking with her mates. I moved out the next day, blocked her, told her family what had happened. I didn't embellish, just the truth. I figured that would be more devastating than an emotional outburst and then blocked them too. I moved on much faster than I thought. It was sad, but ignorance was bliss. I imagined her sad and depressed, regretting what she'd done, and because I blocked her everything, for all I knew it was true. Story 6. I once had a GF who said I ruined her New Year's Eve after my dad was rushed to the hospital on the morning of the 31st. Safe to say I started the New Year single. Story 7. TLDR. She physically abused me, punched me in the groin in front of others. When I confronted her wrongdoing, she broke up. It followed an emotional abuse for the next 3 to 4 months of breakup cause we worked in the same unit. Longer version, we'll edit in intervals. We were in med school year 3 when we started dating. We were acquaintances from the dissection lab before, eventually shared the group in clinic teachings. What started as frenemies to close friends turned into full-blown love. We were committed in about 1 year and were together for another 2 when the cracks started to show. Pertaining to the incidents, we were at a rural community health center as interns with a few other colleagues. Caseload was low and we rotated 2 hourly in pairs through the day to see patients. While we were on our off, we were working on a PowerPoint presentation for community research we concluded. She was on it, I was helping her out. She has had this habit to hit me from before. While engrossed in it, I realized it was our time to go attend patients and told her repeatedly that we ought to go. She didn't listen, and when I was requesting her over and again that it's time, she turned around and punched me in the groin, unprovoked. This happened while there were 2 other women colleagues in the room. In front of them, anybody who's had it in the knows how bad it hurts. As it did to me, it hurt for a good long minute as I egressed from the room in embarrassment and went to tend to patient consults. She joined me in another 3 minutes. Later that day I texted her after getting back home that what she did was wrong and it caused physical pain to me. She apologized over text. Next day when we come back to the community health center, she says she wants to talk and breaks up with me, giving reasons that I deserve someone better and that she isn't good enough for me. But it was pretty obvious that it was her way of getting back at me for calling her out, saving herself. This wasn't the first time she hit me in the groin. It has happened before, but only in playfulness. She's a bit childish in that sense. The trauma that was to come wasn't from the physical act of punching me in the groin, but from the harrowing mind games and emotional abuse that followed. I didn't do anything wrong. Then why did I get punished both? Hit in the groin, a breakup of a long, well-built relationship. It was a lot of time, effort, investment and memories that built the relationship over 3 years, and for her to just destroy it overnight completely broke me. For the next 3 months, it was me just trying to move earth and mountain to win her over. Apologize myself. There was a lot of emotional abuse, victimizing and gaslighting. A lot of yelling at me, threats. I couldn't reach out to anyone because it was embarrassing. We'll edit this bit later. Story 8. Cheating and silent treatment. I'm not talking about needing time to cool down. I'm talking about acting like a complete by refusing to talk for days as some kind of psych operation. Either case, go yourself, it's unforgivable. Story 9. My ex pretending that she loved me for the entire relationship, just because she wanted to see what being in a relationship was like, making fun of my insecurities to her friends. Story 10. Lying. We all lie sometimes, but that's human. I mean more specifically lying to win an argument or gain in some other means, the sort where the stakes are high and they go for the lie regardless. As an adult, if this is behavior that's exhibited on the fly, then it's part of their nature. It will never change because it's almost innate sociopathy. If you have a girlfriend like this, it's better to call it gents. Life's too short for such fuckery. Story 11. Cheating. If you fall for someone else and want them more than me, break up with me and start that new relationship. At least then we can be friends and I'll respect you. If you just cheat on me and I inevitably find out, I'll lose all respect for you and won't even want to have you in my life. Physical assault. I know better than to stay with someone who physically wants to hurt me. Seen enough true crime docs to know a woman can be just as abusive and deadly as a man in these situations. Story 12. She's someone else on my birthday and lied and told me she went to go see a movie that wasn't out yet. I knew she lied but didn't say anything. I found out because he messaged me and told me what happened. He had no idea she even had a boyfriend. Story 13. My barber once told me that his girlfriend went off birth control and was trying to get pregnant without telling him. I'd say that's pretty high on the unforgivable list for me. Story 14. My ex told her parents I hit her. I got a call from her parents that they were going to call the cops. My ex calls me on the phone drunk saying that she didn't think her parents would call her bluff. She told them I hit her because they saw a bruise. The bruise was caused by her falling down because she was wasted and she didn't want to admit it. I wasn't even at the bar she was at when she got drunk. Her parents called me later to apologize. I broke up with her the next day. Story 15. Skipping the obvious murder assault. So I'm probably intentionally and maliciously injuring my animals. I'm not talking a light smack when they go for something on the table, or the cat getting underfoot at 100 in the morning, but actual injury. I've ended friendships over this. Can't see how a romantic relationship is different. Story 16. For money. I spent over 2 decades in the food service industry. Some things just stick with you, like cutting a sandwich diagonally so it takes up more space on the plate. So 7 years ago while my fiancée was pregnant she asked me to make her a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. I cut it diagonally. She started screaming at me and threw the plate at my head. For the sake of my son we co-parent, and she even comes along for family vacations and the like, but that action is always in the back of my mind. Story 17. My ex-girlfriend of 6 years thought I her sister, which I didn't, though I probably should have since she was hotter and would throw herself at me because of her paranoid delusion. She thought it fitting to my best friend and ruin my life. It's been 5 years and she still asks for forgiveness, but that's unforgivable. I forgave him because he told me she would have taken it to the grave, but he had the decency to let me know what I was about to marry. I don't have much of a friendship with him anymore since we fought several times since the incident, but he did care about me enough to stop me from marrying her, and I do forgive him but not her. Story 18. For my last relationship yelling at me for having considering as cheating but expecting me to let things go back to normal after she admits to cheating on me with my roommate. Additionally, demanding I let her access my tech to examine my browsing history every time she comes over. Story 19. Being a divorced father. I'd say the only thing I wouldn't be able to forgive is if she ever abused my daughters in any way, physical or mental. Other than that, with all the I've put my ex-wife through and just being a general piece of my entire life, I can extend a lot of forgiveness and empathy just like others have extended to me, which I did not deserve at all. Edit spelling. Story 20. Stringing me along for years, telling me that she only very briefly a long time ago felt anything real for me, ghosting me in favor of someone she later claimed abused her, then coming back into my life trying to be my friend but pretending she's the only one hurt, telling me she was pregnant for 3 months after she got an abortion. Story 21. She cheated on me very early on. I didn't really realize it at the time, but it broke me in a pretty fundamental way, and I was then obsessed with keeping her as some sort of proof that I was worthwhile as a person. I thought I had forgiven her, but I hadn't. She did a lot of other things to make me feel worthless and dehumanized me, and I don't think I'm ever going to truly get over it. It's been 1.5 years since it ended, and it's still almost as bad as it was back then. Story 22. She took my son at 13 months and ghosted me until I finally got the courts to respond. I hadn't seen him for 10 months before he was 2 years old. This is very fresh. He turns 2 next month. And I have a temporary placement schedule set until we get a permanent court date. There is absolutely no excuse. Me and my son will never get that time back. Story 23. Attempting world domination and failing. I would totally be cool with a successful run. A failed one though, that just shows a lack of effort, and well, if she can't put real effort into world domination, then is she really trying in our relationship? Story 24. Popping roofies in my drink and sharing me with her housemates and a couple friends. And some guy that she had apparently been involved with all along that just watched and directed. Story 25. Cheating. I don't care how you dress, how you act, within reason of course. But cheating is it? I will not cheat. If I get the inkling to, I'll end the relationship, and have done so before. I expect the same amount of respect. Story 26. Yelled at me I'd be a shitty father and shitty husband, and that I'd be just like my biological father, very abusive towards his kids and wife. When she knew prior I am terrified of being anything remotely like him and want to be a father really bad. Story 27. I'm sure there's a lot of things a girl could do, but for me the one absolute was always cheating. I've told every woman I've ever dated, if you cheat on me, we're done, no questions asked. If I'm not good enough for you, then break up with me and go who you want. I will not miss you. Story 28. My wife cheated on me with someone I knew, who we used to hang out at the bar with, for 5 months, letting me shake his hand and slap his back and say how you doing Fred, every Wednesday, then asking me for a divorce and getting 50 of all our marital assets. Thank you, to all you lawyers out there who got no-fault divorce laws passed.
You, yay my little bitter.
Story 29. Asking for an open relationship. There are only 2 answers to that question. Yes, and get the out of my house. Not to mention a relationship that doesn't start open but instead becomes open will always end soon. So saying yes is just delaying the inevitable and setting yourself up for heartbreak and STDs. Story 30. Boyfriend, but still, my dad passed last year and was sick a long time before that. I didn't get to see him too much because he was in and out of hospital and going here and there, and I don't have transport at my disposal. He had to take a short trip to Brighton, which is only about an hour from where I live, and he offered to pick me up so we could go together. Driving together was always a thing for us, for as long as I could remember, and because of his heart problems, he could basically drop whenever. He was a stubborn man though, didn't stop him from driving. Of course I said yes, so I told my boyfriend who was staying at my place at the time that it wasn't a short trip and that I'd be back in under 2 hours. He was completely fine with it to begin with, and I told him he could help himself to food and use my PlayStation or do whatever to occupy himself. But about half an hour into the trip, he messages me all mad about how I said he could come over only to go out without him and that I was selfish for it. Keep in mind, he was staying for a week, an entire week. I was gone under 2 hours. He literally sent a text saying, "No, I get it, you have someone better than me to hang out with," and that left me pretty dumbstruck. He ended up going home in the evening. It took me an embarrassingly long time to leave him, but after that and countless other horrible things he did I managed to. It always kinda lingered in my brain and I knew I couldn't just forgive or forget. Maybe what I did was selfish. I'm not too conscious about that stuff so I'm not sure, but everyone else thought he was out of line so I assume he was. Edit just realized how long this was, probably could have been a paragraph, sorry. Story 31 girl I was talking to at one time, not necessarily dating, was playing with my dog and got her all riled up. My dog got excited and stepped on her foot obviously by mistake as she was jumping around dog, which ended up scratching her. She slapped my dog on the head as a response, instantly cut off. Story 32 wife, not girlfriend, but the point remains, we went to the store to food shop, she wanted steaks. She likes New York strips so she got one for her and one for my son. The butcher had nice looking porterhouse cuts up so I grabbed one for me. Fast forward to steak night, I like mine med rare to rare. She had control of the grill since I was stuck on a call for work. I get off the call in time for everything to come off and sit down for dinner. I cut the small fillet and the strip off the bone. Cut the fillet and it is raw. Wife sees it and offers to throw it back on the grill for a few minutes since it is still hot. I say sure. She comes back in a few minutes later and puts only the strip on my plate, to which I of course inquire as to where the piece of fillet went. Oh, I figured that piece was too small to worry about so I gave it to the dog. She gave it to my dog. A 95-pound old English bulldog who most likely swallowed it whole without tasting it and would have probably done the same if you threw a wet clump of cat hair at her. I stumbled over my words for a minute before I was able to explain what makes a porterhouse a porterhouse. She said sorry, but I don't think she could quite grasp the severity of the situation. I still have flashbacks and think about that steak, unforgivable. Story 33 I got hypnotized to help me stop binge eating junk food. All was going great about a month and until she said, "You know it's just a placebo effect." Literally heard glass break in my mind and went back to slamming junk food. We now have 3 kids and will be celebrating our 8-year anniversary but underneath, ugh. Story 34 I make all of our meals. She put sauce on everything. The other day I couldn't look at her in the face after she asked if we had any mustard to put on my pot roast. Story 35 cheating on me and letting me find out on my own. I have a rule: if you find someone else, tell me yourself. That alone sends maybe a hint of respect, but let me get blindsided shows no respect. All conversations at that point is null and void forever. Story 36 breaking up with me after I got laid off. Going to a rave on our anniversary without me, then messaging me months later saying life's too short, GTFO. Story 37 I could maybe forgive cheating, maybe not. But if she's carrying some other dude's baby, no. While cheating seems to be the main focus here, mine is quite a bit different. Granted, cheating would have been a deal breaker for sure, but I was thinking more along the lines of something she did and you tried to get past but just couldn't, and it was always in the back of your mind. Hey race mine, we had only been together 4 months when this happened but ended up together for 7 years before it ended. This event always stuck with me and should have been a forewarning of who she really was. Every January she would go on this week-long trip with her sister to Cancun. One of the problems with this trip was she also had a dog, an awesome Great Dane, so someone needed to watch the dog while she was gone for that week. Well, it just so happened that I love dogs and this dog loved me too, so I volunteered to stay at the house and take care of the dog while she was gone. Bonus, she lived closer to my office so it cut my commute to nothing, and while she was out of town, I decided to fix a bunch of things around the house that were in dire need of repair. She'd get home from her trip and all of the little things that were broken would be fixed and she'd see that I could keep her dog alive while she's gone. Things were going just as planned. I fixed all of the broken items on day 1, and the dog and I hung out and had a great time, but on day 3 the dog didn't seem to be herself. She was moping around and didn't seem to be as energetic as she normally was. I spoke to my girlfriend every night and mentioned that the dog seemed off, but she said that was normal when she went away for extended periods of time and it was nothing to be worried about. By day 4, things had gotten worse. This dog wasn't mine, so I didn't know its characteristics, but I knew something wasn't right. She had a hard time walking up and down the stairs to go outside and didn't seem to be eating. I took some videos and sent them to my girlfriend so she could see exactly what I was worried about. I even offered to take her to the vet just to be sure. Her response was, "Yes, something's not right, but I don't want you to take her to the vet because she hasn't been to the vet since I got her, and if something is seriously wrong, I don't want you to have to deal with it. WTF, this is your dog. You don't want me to do anything I can to make sure it's not seriously ill. In hindsight, I should have just taken the dog to the emergency vet. But it wasn't my dog and it was a new relationship and I didn't want to rock the boat. By day 5 the dog could no longer stand up on its own. I was hand feeding it and I would come home every day for lunch to check on her, feed her, give her water, etc. I could tell she was in pain. I put pillows under her head and blankets under her as best I could. She was a Great Dane, so it wasn't easy. I mentioned all of this to my girlfriend and she just said that I should make her comfortable and she would deal with it when she got home. She couldn't get up, so she would just pee where she laid and I would have to clean her up, slide her around, and just keep her as comfortable as possible. Every night I had to go to sleep listening to this dog whimpering. I kept asking my girlfriend if I could just do something and she insisted I didn't. When I went to pick my girlfriend up from the airport, along with her brother and sister, I told the dog to hold on as long as she could. I was getting Mom and IDB right back. I raced to the airport, got them loaded into the car, dropped off her sister, and raced back home. The dog was still alive. I thought for sure we'd do something now, take her to the emergency vet or something. Nope, we went to bed. At some point early in the morning, my girlfriend got up and went downstairs. The dog died while she was with her. I woke up, knowing something wasn't right, and went downstairs too. We both had a cry. She called her ex, who had her daughter, and told her what happened and to bring her daughter by to say her goodbyes to the dog. Then we loaded the dog into the car and took her to the local humane society. As if that entire week wasn't tragic enough for me, what really stuck with me and I couldn't get over was the fact that her family and friend would joke about how the first time I stayed at the house and took care of her dog, the dog died, and she never defended me. She never told them that I wanted to take the dog to the vet. She never acknowledged that I nursed the dog the entire time and kept asking to take it to the vet, or that I had to sleep there every night and listen to the dog whimpering in pain while she was off in Cancun having a blast. I even brought this up to her multiple times and explained how I felt. She didn't seem to give a. Even typing this brought tears to my eyes. Many years later, this event wasn't what ended everything for us, but it was part of the process and something I've never gotten over and she's never taken responsibility for. Story 38. Cheating. When you cheat, the trust is gone, and I can't be with someone I don't trust. If you're willing to cheat, that means you're not that invested in the relationship. I think your partner deserves to know that ahead of time. Story 39. Before we started dating, she was with another guy and was kinda seeing me on the side. Terrible decision on both of our parts. I understand that, but we were young and dumb. When they eventually broke up, she started going out with a different guy instead. I was heartbroken. We didn't talk for almost a year. Then she hit me up and we started talking again, and we dated for 2 years. She told me she had changed and I guess I really had no reason not to believe her. We talked about what had happened a lot. And aside from that instance, it was a healthy relationship, but the trust issues kept building up and she could tell. It weighed on both of us way too much to continue, and just a few weeks ago now we broke up. I guess what she did is forgivable because like I said we were young and dumb, about 17, but it definitely left an impact on me that I'll never forget. Story 40. Things I forgave my ex for that I should never have. Going on a date with their ex and rubbing it in my face 2 months together at that point. Insulting my family and starting arguments with them, being a taker, making as much money as me but the gifts and paying for things goes one direction. Manic events like waking me up and pounding on the walls at 12:30 a.m. on a work night. Or pouring a jar of chili powder all over food that I just cooked. Story 41. Dumping me a week before I was supposed to fly out to her in Peru. She was doing an internship there. Cost me like 700 euros. Never spoke to her again after that. We were together for 7 years up until that point. Ex knew of my allergies. Multiple times I found floral-scented plugins stuck around the house. Tried to humor it for a day, but when my sneezing began and ears clogged up I'd pull them out. By the 4th time within the year, I just yanked them out of the first whiff and threw them away. We didn't last much longer. Story 42. Playing games. Not the fun ones like Elden Ring. Like the ones where they test you over and over again and break your heart and test how much it takes to make you break in half, using your money to buy weed and saying they need it to deal with being with you, leaving on read you all hours of the day. Screaming at you to the point they are punching and red in the face over nothing but their own personal problems because they act like an emotional child and can't handle their life issues and emotional problems without letting it out on the people close to them, expecting too much. To be perfect, when no one is, saying I love you and hearing nothing. Story 43. Probably going to be buried since I'm late to the show, but talking about it and just simply typing it out has been an effective way to heal from what I went through this past year. So she was my neighbor, we began having an intimate relationship and things were casual. I was 27 and she was 33. I had a nasty drug habit at this point in my life and she was a recovering addict. She had 5 years clean under her belt besides alcohol. She was a raging alcoholic, but I didn't care, as I was on stimulants 247 and she was always DTF. My drug of choice was speed, but I had enough decency to not offer her any and lie about having it when she would ask. Then one day she ran into an old dealer of hers and he everything she wanted. Next thing you know, BM she was shooting up ice mixed with heroin. 0 to 100, shortly after, my lease ended, which led to me staying with her. At this point we were both hella on drugs. This was when everything went unfathomably south to destination. It started with very brief outbursts over things that most people don't get upset about. If she did something that hurt someone else, me, her mom, her son, any poor who crossed her path, she could somehow turn the tables to shift blame onto the victim. Accountability was rated at absolute 0. Huge red flag, but I was high as 247 and was great, so I didn't give about anything else really. In my mind life was rad, as I could tell something was off but not enough for me to break up with her. As time went on, the gaslighting got so bad that she almost broke me. Luckily I caught on to what she was doing somewhat quick and could call her out on the manipulation techniques, hiding belongings of mine then returning them where I thought they were to begin with, acting crazy as with the intention of making me feel like I'm going insane so she could tell me I needed to take a Xanax because I'm acting weird. The list goes on. It got 10x worse once she started smoking fentanyl. If you've never seen anyone go from being a somewhat sweet and lovable human being into an unpredictable violent psychopath, Just wait until they get on Fent. It turned my ex into this maniacal, spiteful demon. She would blow it in my face while I'd be asleep, so she could keep me asleep while she went through all of my belongings looking for anything to steal or use old conversations to pin me as a cheater. She threw out all of my nicest clothes, stole money from me, vandalized my brand new car, blamed me for not having any reflex to stop the caulking gun she threw at my 50-inch 4K TV. I could go on for hours. Then one day, we did a shot of speed that didn't get me high, but somehow I managed to be carried off by an ambulance. We both were experiencing the same symptoms until the paramedics showed up. Then all of a sudden she magically feels fine while I'm laying in a puddle of my own vomit in the fetal position. When asked if she wanted to ride in the ambulance with me to the hospital, she declined and started eating snacks and cleaning up the house. She was cancerous in every way, shape, and form. Now she's in jail, and on her way to prison from DWI and possession charges while on probation. I've since been clean and have a newfound appreciation for life. The psychological physical abuse will take time to get past, but I'm doing better than I have in so long. If you made it this far, thanks for taking the time to read. Edit: I didn't have health insurance when I went to the hospital, so they didn't do a toxicology report. Whatever almost killed me still remains a mystery. Probably cheating. I would leave immediately. Story 44. I luckily haven't had this happen, but if they harmed children and didn't show any sign of remorse, intentional or not, women hurting children is way more common than talked about and often overlooked until it is too late. Society still struggles with the idea that women hurt and murder children. Story 45. Went to her friend's wedding as a bridesmaid and slept with the groom's brother and tried to blame him for taking advantage of her when she herself led him to her room, kissed him, and took off her dress, bent over, and whispered we should not be doing this, and later told me so she can prove that she is honest and proof that she still loves me. Story 46. I asked my girlfriend to marry me once and she did. Bad actions, good intentions, naivety, forgiveness, bad actions, lucidity, unforgiveness. Unless it's something minor and you're notoriously impulsive, bad actions, faking good intentions, total, solid unforgiveness. Story 47. Didn't contact me for a week. Showed up at my door one day with hockeys all over her chest. Later found out she cheated on me several times, but she still thinks she didn't do anything wrong. Story 48. Had a GF that had a guy friend she told me about that used to be fat and ugly when they were younger but got in shape and grew to be handsome and became, in her words, kind of a womanizer that traveled a lot and slept with loads of women. He was in town and she hadn't seen him for years, so she wanted to catch up with him, which I didn't mind. She stayed the night at my place after hanging out with him, and I noticed something was off and she was being defensive of her phone. Subtle but obvious things, like slightly turning the screen as I climbed into bed next to her, etc. When she was asleep I decided to go through her phone, which I felt like for doing. I found them messaging each other, and it was something along the lines of him saying it was hard not to make a move and he wanted to her or something, not sure of the exact wording. It seemed evident that nothing had happened, but her replies weren't shutting down his advances either. I confronted her about it and she told me she had gone to his place and they had been drinking and she ended up sitting in his bed with him as they talked. Even if nothing happened, allowing that situation to even happen was way too big of a red flag and I broke it off. TLDR, she went to this guy's place who she described to me as an attractive womanizer man type, got drunk with him, got in bed with him, didn't shut down his advances in the chat, and kept it secret from me what happened. Story 49. Gaslighting the out of me, always making me feel like something was wrong with me, and making me feel like I was walking on eggshells whenever I was with her. It's been 3 years since she dumped me, and I still get pissed about it sometimes, but worst of all, she didn't like Monty Python and the Holy Grail. Story 50. I see my stepsister do this a lot and it annoys me, but telling your partner they need to apologize because you had a dream about being cheated on is beyond stupid. Story 51. Lying to my face multiple times when her jealous ex-GF contacted me to tell me she was less bi right after we were to be engaged. I was patient and sweet. I gave her my full trust when she denied, only for her sister to tell me the truth. Story 52. I think cheating and so forth goes without saying, but the worst trait in a partner is lying. If you find a woman who constantly lies, if it be white lies or just about random run, don't forgive liars and don't accept it in your relationship. Story 53. She told me how I reminded her of an old man she used to be with. Turns out she had a sugar daddy age 67 in her 20s. To me that's just prostitution in disguise. Story 54. Coworker started the romance, cheated, ghosted me, then acted like I was in the wrong when I was upset about how I was treated. It's been a few years and it still irks me time to time. It was followed up with another girl who wouldn't fully commit to the idea of dating me but wanted me around, for 9 months. When I called it out she said that I had imagined all the talks we had about us and a future together. I walked away from her, still hurt. I'm 36 and have given up on looking for any sort of relationship. My schedule and COVID isolation have put a considerable distance on even being available or having the energy to look. I don't have a face for online dating, so I don't even bother. Aside from the lonesomeness that occurs usually in the fall through winter months, I have begun to come to terms and be okay with it. And I have a dog, so time better spent. Story 55. Most of the reasons for me are already mentioned, but one thing I'd add would be if she threw out some stuff that I cared about just because she thinks it's junk or doesn't find worth keeping. Especially if she wouldn't say anything and I had to figure it out after the fact. Story 56. Yelling at my great-grandmother. My Mimi was upset she wasn't wearing a seatbelt and got a ticket. My Mimi told her to put it on when she saw she took it off a little later. You can be upset and yell at me all you want, but don't yell at my Mimi, especially for something that was your fault. Broke up that day. Story 57. Lying about or hiding any type of cheating. I've never forgiven anyone for cheating, but in theory if someone got way too up and did something, then immediately told me and seemed genuinely remorseful, there's at least a slight chance that I might forgive them. If they hid it for more than a few hours, it's 1000 over.